Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Starsector. In today's video, we will be discussing the Tempest frigate, a powerful, high-tech little guy with termination sequence, which allows you to send drones at your target. Drones also double as point defense. Let me grab something that's a carrier to demonstrate. So, the Tempest is pretty fast, and those red orbs there are the drones. They kind of orbit the ship independently, and you'll see here that they'll fire at enemy fighters, and sometimes block hits and stuff. So I class the Tempest as something of an offensive frigate, and I'll cover why when we get to the combat example, but for now let's look at the build. So I've pretty much always built my Tempests the same way. This build is set up to be used by the AI. If I'm going to personally pilot, I'm just going to change the Atropos over to either a Reaper for maximum single target burst, or if I'm not feeling confident in my aim that day, I'll use a hammer. If I'm really not confident, then I'll switch back to the Atropos because it tracks, so I don't need to worry about lining up shots. So, these three weapons will be perfect if you are learning how to use the Tempest. First is, of course, the Atropos. 2 shots, it tracks, it does good damage to armor. This is what you use once your opponent drops their shields. The Ion Pulsar and the Pulse Laser can actually both be put on the same group and just left to auto-fire. That'll be fine. So, the Pulse Laser is going to deal decent damage to enemies no matter what. That's kind of its advantage. It is basically just an energy gun, a bolter, if you will. The Ion Pulsar is a bursty weapon that does a pretty dang good chunk of EMP damage, and when it hits engine or hull, there's a 25% chance for its damage to arc to weapons and engines for extra damage. So, with these two weapons combined, you can pressure and disable other ships, and help out in battles against ships of any size. So the Tempest can duel enemy frigates really well, it can assist in taking down larger ships, it's just generally all around good. So what is the weakness of the Tempest real quick? By default, it only has a peak performance time of 240 seconds, which brings us to captain skills and hull mods. So, if you're going to put an officer or yourself in a Tempest, I highly recommend combat endurance, field modulation, and missile specialization. Combat endurance is going to give you 60 seconds more peak operating time, and it's going to make your ship degrade more slowly once your peak operating time runs out. You also get a chunk of combat readiness. All of that synergizes very well to keep the Tempest in the fight longer. The elite skill on combat endurance is not super useful. Generally, if a Tempest begins taking hits on hull, it's about to explode, so hull regeneration, hull repair during combat is not going to help that much. Field modulation reduces the damage taken by your shields. This is another one that you don't really need to have as an elite skill, but it is helpful. Missile spec is just my personal preference because it doubles the amount of missiles that a given ship has. And if you elite skill it, it makes them more damaging. I like missiles, so I use missile spec. Is it actually necessary on the Tempest? I would say probably not. If you're building an officer with 5 skills specifically for the Tempest, you might also consider helmsmanship, because getting the Tempest to the target faster and allowing it to back away from fights that it can't win is just going to be good all around. And you might also want gunnery implants to increase the range at which the Tempest can hit targets. 15% energy weapon range is pretty cool. And the elite skill of giving 4% ECM rating could be nice if you don't have something else that you want to make an elite skill for a given officer. And if I were to recommend one last skill, it would be targeting analysis, which allows the Tempest to punch even harder to a variety of ship sizes. If you elite skill it, you'll get bonus damage to frigates and destroyers. If you don't, it's still good for the 20% bonus damage to capital ships and the 15% damage to cruisers. Thus concludes the discussion on skills. So, hull mods. Integrated targeting unit, again, more range means easier control over engaging with the target, shooting them before they can shoot you. Missile autoloader is a personal favorite of mine because it allows you to get more missiles. That's all it does. So in the case of the Atropos racks, we have a reload capacity of 6, we have a reload cost of 3, so we get 2 more missiles. So we've gone from having 2 to having 4, plus the boost from missile spec, which should bring up the base of 2 to 4. So 4 plus 2 from missile autoloader is 6 Atroposes in total, which is 6,000 damage. Pretty nice. Enough to strip the armor off of basically anything if they all land in the right spot. And lastly, shield conversion front. You don't need this, but I like having either shield conversion front, which locks the shield to the front and extends its arc by double, giving us 240-degree coverage. Or as an alternate, if you want to keep the Omni Shield effect that the Tempest has by default, you could take extended shields for a similar bonus. If you're particularly good at piloting, you might not need to extend your shield arc. If you want to use something else in its place, you might take hardened shields to make your shields more effective, or you could maybe go for hardened subsystems to increase your combat uptime overall. There are a variety of choices. Aux thrusters is of course also good. Again, controlling the speed at which you engage and disengage is nice. Anyway, that's the build. Pulse laser, ion pulsar, Atropos. You'll want combat readiness and field modulation at a minimum, with targeting analysis, gunnery implants, and helmsmanship as good additional choices, with missile spec as a niche pick. Systems expertise also probably affects drone recharge rate. Don't quote me on that though. I don't actually know the numbers. Probably would help. And remember that your best skills to probably put a story point into if you're building an officer is probably target analysis or helmsmanship. Anyway, let's move on to combat. The Tempest in particular is pretty dang good at dueling enemy frigates. So if we send it in here against, say, the Slasher, even on autopilot, it's probably going to win. So it engages, it fluxes out the target. Note that, oh yeah, there it goes. Terminator drones. So what I was going to say is we filled the Lasher with hard flux there, but we only had soft flux. Very advantageous. So you can duel frigates. Is there a frigate that I think the Tempest would struggle against? Probably other Tempests, or something like a Glimmer with a bunch of tack lances, something that can like stay away from it might be a concern. But in most cases, I have run in the past with a stack of 8 to 10 Tempests as my only frigate, and for the most part, I just don't need to pay attention to them until they run out of peak performance and need to be ordered to retreat. Now, the Tempest is probably not going to be soloing any destroyers. That's not normally what I would send it in to do. So let's play the Tempest in context of a larger fleet battle so you can see how that might work. I will take a capital ship, a cruiser, a destroyer, and 3 additional frigates. We'll give our enemy a capital, a cruiser, a destroyer, and a variety of frigates. But I'm also going to switch over to another faction and throw in some of their ships, like a Shrike, a Medusa, just to kind of mix it up a little and compensate for the fact that we have very strong ships, because I'm kind of an endgame. We've got the cool automated 14th battle group ships. Okay, but let's watch how the Tempest does, even on autopilot. I bet you he's going to do something neat. Then again, maybe he'll stay back. Okay, in that case, we're personally piloting. We're taking command. Whoa! Don't get hit by those. Block. So, I want to help with that Lasher. We're just going to throw out a Terminator drone. And we'll throw out both, why not? Okay, Terminator drone did get in a shot there, but target died before we could reach it. So, the Glimmers have that Medusa tied up. We are going to go eliminate that enemy Lasher, if possible. Yeah, just like that. Oh no, we both overloaded. That's okay though. Our drone is still firing, our allied Glimmer is firing, and we recovered first to kill him. Throw those drones at him. Perfect, overload him again. Nice. Alright, active vent. And we'll go help with the Medusa. Which is going to kind of be a problem of chasing him down. Oh, we're just going to warp toward me. That's an option. Active vent again. We basically want to keep his flux bar going up while making sure that we maintain ours and keep ours able to drain. So we back off an active vent a lot while doing this kind of chase down. Okay, let's go behind the Glimmers. Oh, good. We've pushed the Medusa in range of our onslaught. That's those red projectiles there. Nope. I threw in a Tropos and threw out a Terminator drone. Good enough. We got him. Okay, did we deal with that Centurion? Oh, he moved to the other side of the onslaught. Alright. In which case, we are doing onslaught takedown. Get in behind him. Hit him with the ion pulsar. Oh, he threw Sabos. Ow, we're flamed out. That's really bad. Build up. No! No! Okay, but you see the general concept. And for being an 8 deployment point frigate, we helped take down, what, a Medusa and a Lasher, so 20 points worth. I kind of want to run that again just to, or something similar, just to show you the onslaught takedown. So let's take a few ships, deploy some kind of onslaught, take the same one from before. So when I was first starting out playing, I thought that bigger ships always meant better, but my stance now is that a balance is good, but if you are against a single large ship and you have 3 or 4 small ships, you can almost always win, especially in something like an onslaught that is very directional in its defenses and its offense. So all you want to do is get behind him, like so, just like we were doing in that battle before I got flamed out and died. Get in behind him, hit him with the guns, and get overloaded like last time, but that's okay. So we're going to back up this time instead of panicking. Okay, get back in, try again. Back up an active vent, and just dive back in. And I'm just going to keep hucking Terminator drones at him, and throw the missiles, might as well. We want him down. And he's down. That's kind of what I wanted to happen in that first mock battle. Die, Onslaught. And you'll note that we deployed a 40-point Onslaught. We took it down with 41 points of ships. So there is actually a balance thing happening there. We paid an equivalent number of deployment points to bring him down, but he probably didn't have much of a chance to win that fight, despite the point costs being equal. And part of that is maneuverability, and part of that is the flux pools. We were able to back up an active vent to put our flux back down. The Onslaught only had 1 flux pool, so he couldn't retreat an active vent and have someone else tank for him like we could. And that's kind of why going wide is often better than going tall in terms of combat strength. I would rather have, say, 1T frigates than 4 capital ships, if we're going to be on the extreme end. But if I were putting together just a basic fleet comp, I would probably pack like 1 or 2 capital ships, 2 to 4 cruisers, 4 to 8 destroyers, and then the rest would be frigates, just to make sure that I have the right ships for any situation. Like if I'm against single large ships, we'd deploy the frigates. If we're against an entire enemy fleet, we might want a large ship, all of that. But that's more general combat advice that should probably go in its own video so it's easy to find. Anyway, everyone, that's the Tempest build. The thing about this is that I rarely stray from this. Like, there are probably other builds. I actually made some other builds in AutoFit. Like, there's the support build, which is very similar, except that it has hardened subsystems, and it trades away all the offensive burst for a salamander, an ion beam, and a gravitron. I guess we can show them off just as demonstration. So the thing about changing out your weapons for longer range stuff is now you're not going to have to dive in and go on the attack. You can just point yourself at the enemy like this, kind of inch forward until you see your weapons start to fire. And this is your job now. Your job is just to stick to things and let the beams tickle the target. And leave your Terminator drones primarily to act as point defense if your enemy closes. But see here, we have the Tempest doing this, and the Glimmers are basically doing the same thing. They have a very similar loadout plan to the Tempest, so we just tie up our target until a larger ship can come along and capitalize on the pressure we've created. That's kind of the idea behind the Gravitron Ion Beam build. Would I use this in general? Probably not, unless I had a very specific thing in mind. The other one I made is kind of a joke. I call it the Radical because it is safety overridden Reaper with missile autoloader and 2 antimatter blasters. This is purely a what if burst damage scenario. But I suppose we'll keep these kinds of builds here at the end of the video in case y'all wanna do some silly experiments. So the thing about this, oh gosh, it's super fast. I actually don't know if I can pilot this, it's so fast. Like, look how quick it turns. We move at 298 burn, which is absurdly fast. Nothing in the game catches this, so we can just go around the Dominator, like so. Get in behind, blaster him, ow, get hit by bombs. Throw out the Reaper, and of course we have plenty of allies doing damage as well, but this thing, that is the plan, is just to cruise behind stuff, hit them with the antimatter blasters. Of course, you can do this better by piloting an Afflictor, so this is another build that I would probably not advise using unless you're in, like, the early game, and this combination of ship and weapon is just what you got. Anyway, that's the primary build, which is this one, the Ion Pulsar and stuff. Remember that one. The other two are just kind of experimental. But I think that's all I have time for today. That's the Tempest, everyone. If you have any further questions, build ideas to share with everyone so we can all benefit, or any requests for future guide videos, battles, showcases, anything about Starsector you might want to know that you might want to see me make a video about, let me know down in the comments, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye for now.